Hi, everyone. Welcome to True Disabled Story. My name is Nico, and I use he, him pronouns. I'm a white man with parted blonde hair, large blue and brown spectacles, and a black headset around my head. I'm wearing a green t-shirt underneath a green flannel unbuttoned shirt. I'm seated against a blurred out background. Like about 20% of the global population and nearly 17% of Philadelphia, I'm disabled. Whether we look locally, nationally, or globally, disability communities are full of dynamic, diverse, and frankly delightful people with their own stories to tell. All we have to do is listen. As many of you know, I was born disabled. I've never known differently. So when I work with other disabled people in my civic, professional, or personal life, I'm eager to hear their stories and their perspectives. Today, I'm honored to be joined by Olivia, and I can't wait to hear what she has to share. Hi, Olivia. Thank you for being with us.
Hi, I'm honored to be here. My name is Olivia Fadul. I am a Filipino woman, about 5 feet. I have long black hair uh, to below my shoulders, and I am wearing a red jacket today, a University of New Mexico red jacket. And my in the background, my Zoom background is University of New Mexico. A short bio about me. I am a going into my fourth year doctoral student at the University of New Mexico. I am a professional counselor since 2011, passionate about disability mental health, neurodiversity. I started in substance abuse, and I work in telehealth, and I work with a wide range of individuals. Um, and I'm very honored to be here, very honored to be researching disability mental health, as well as BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, People of Color research. I am an intersectionality researcher, and I am passionate about interdisciplinary research, education, mental health, and um, expanding access for BIPOC individuals, disabilities, and many marginalized communities, uh, such as also LGBTQ. Um, and with that being said, I am thankful to get started with this interview.
Gosh, Olivia, I've done a lot of these interviews by now, and nobody's ever started with such a comprehensive biography. Thank you for the work that you do. It's definitely needed. All right, let's dive in. So, Olivia, what was your path to diagnosis like? Was this a surprise to you and your supports, or was it like maybe something you were actively pursuing? Tell us that story.
Yes. I was born in 1984, and so around when I was 4 years old, 4 years old in Decatur, Alabama. I was born in the South. In Decatur, Alabama, I came down with a high fever of 104 degrees. And my mom and dad, they tell me that my high fever would not come down. It would not come down. And I'm not really sure how I got a high fever. I might have gotten it from daycare because at the time I was around a lot of children, and in daycare, you can also contract it. So I'm not sure. There's like a hypothesis that may have been it, but nevertheless, in 1988, In summer 1988, I came down with a high fever. It wouldn't come down. And my earliest memories is that my mom, as a nurse, I remember she was giving me medicine out of a clown. It was like it's kind of like a clown syrup thingy. And so I remember um, she was nursing my body back to health with a clown spoon, and I can remember looking at it. And I can remember knowing that um, what it was like to have hearing and then not to have hearing. And so it wasn't until um, 1989 that I was diagnosed in kindergarten with hearing loss. And so there is actually a video of my first day in kindergarten, where the one of the moms in the class recorded my first day with other students. And in the video, you can see the teacher yelling my name, and I didn't respond. And so, long story short, the school told my parents, you need to get your child tested. And so in November 1989, I was diagnosed with hearing loss in Birmingham, Alabama. And at the time, these uh, some of these best specialists were in Birmingham, Alabama, near University of Alabama, Birmingham Hospital, and I had Dr. Pappas, and Dr. Pappas is the same audiologist that Miss America in 1995, the first individual with disability. Um, she won in 1995. And so growing up, Heather Whitestone was my role model, and she was from Alabama. And like a lot of deaf and hard of hearing people, there are signs that, hey, your child may be deaf and hard of hearing. And so my mom tells me that when I was 4 years old, my grandmother, she became my voice. And what I mean by that is when I lost my hearing, I became quiet. I wasn't bubbly because before I had hearing loss, I was very bubbly. I was making up my own words. I was very playful. I was climbing counters. And then when you become a child with disability, your whole personality changes overnight. And my grandma became my voice, where she told my mom, this is what she needs. I think this is what she's saying. And so, 4 and 5 years old, to me as a child, when you have hearing loss, your um, language development stops. And so as a child, I had speech therapy for 4 years. And I know I'm going into your next question of how disability impacted your life.
Olivia, thank you so much. I'm glad that you got what was then top of the line care in Alabama, and that you had such a supportive family to help translate for you, I guess, in those first early years. I really value that story because, as you know, I don't have that experience of knowing what it was like to be able-bodied and then to lose some kind of capacity. So I appreciate that insight. And it does lead me to my second question, which was, how has your disability or your diagnosis impacted your life? other guests have taken this to consider, like personally or professionally, but it's really up to you. So yeah, the question is, what impact has your diagnosis had on your life?
I've thought about this question long and hard about how disability has impacted my life. I think for me personally, um, I think that I've always felt different from other kids. I was always the only kid with disability in my class. There may have been other kids that had neurodiverse but at that time, ADHD and neurodiversity, disability, wasn't really, it was really, I feel like it was in the early infant stages, especially when I was diagnosed. I was diagnosed the year before ADA was passed, American Disabilities Act was passed. I was diagnosed in 89. In 1990, um, ADA was passed. And so I think for me, having a disability, growing up as an American Disabilities Act child, it's really, um, it really impacted my life of learning about my mental health, of how I can support myself, how I can ask for help, how feeling othered or feeling like the only one teaches you how to ask for help, how to navigate ableism and discrimination of, hey, you can't do that. And I think as somebody with hearing loss, I try to prove people wrong. And I remember when I saw Miss Heather Whitestone, the first deaf Miss America, become Miss America. I was like, oh my gosh, if she can become Miss America, I could do something with my life. And then when I saw um, other um, role models in the disability community. And you know, when I was growing up, I didn't really feel like there was a lot. However, when the disability uh, disability rights movement, when we went through another disability rights movement when COVID happened. And so when COVID happened, I saw all these disability researchers come up and I was like, oh my gosh, I could do this. And so one of my role models within my doctoral work is Dr. Angeli Forber Pratt. And she does a lot of work around disability identity. And so she's one of the first researchers within the field that studies disability identity. And I think for me to um, see her as well as a few other researchers like Bonnie, well, you know, there's some other researchers that I'm not really sure they had disabilities, but when I saw the researchers expand, and then I saw researchers that do have disabilities, like Angeli Forber Pratt, um, and Tony Say, or even one of my colleagues that like to research with and do projects with. Um, when I started to research about myself, I started to meet other people that had disabilities, and I was like, oh my gosh, I could do this. And I was like, I want to expand mental health for individuals with disabilities, not only for physical disabilities, but invisible disabilities. And I think um, the lack of research within our community, and then the discrimination that sometimes I see, that serves as my motivator to really learn more about myself, but other stories that may be out there, because in research right now, we're at a point where um, lived experience is so important. And if we don't have lived experience within the research, um, then we're just talking from the researcher standpoint, but not from the lived experience. And so I think for me personally, I think that growing up with sometimes not having resources, I wanted to use that anger of not having resources. I wanted to use it to expand resources for my community. And that's where I'm at right now in my life.
You do a great job of describing how the previous generation had impacted you as a disabled person and how you've
Mhm.
gone on to be that change that you needed so desperately to see. Thank you for your answer. I really loved hearing it. If you could go back in time, or even if you could give advice to a young person with the hearing loss community, what advice would you give?
Yeah, I think that we're in a very beautiful time right now within research, within mental health, where individuals with disabilities are speaking up more. And I wish I had more of that when I was younger. I think for me personally, I had a lot of shame growing up. I was like, why am I disabled at some point? And then some points I was proud of myself. Um, but I think for me personally, if I were to go back, um, and not oh, and I think not only for a young person that maybe they're 5 or 6 and they're being diagnosed, your parents are such a big part of their life, and I think for me personally, at that young of an age, I think I would have appreciated my parents, introducing me to deaf and hard of hearing role models, and because I think that's important development. I think as a child, and then especially as an adolescent, and even in college, I would read as many stories. I would listen to podcasts such as this, YouTube, to build my self-esteem up and to learn about other resources that are available for me. And so I think personally, if I were to go back and talk to somebody and mentor adolescents or even college students or young professionals, I would advise them get a disabled mentor, a professional. And so I very thankful to be um, at this stage in my life. I'm 40 years old. I, for most of my life, ADA was there for me. And I think for uh, younger people, I would also advise them learn everything you can about accessibilities and how accessibility devices can help you with work and with school. And there's no shame in using these devices if you're able to um, better your life, continue your journey, use it to your advantage because it's going to help to advance your life. And I think that's my advice for the younger generation.
Thank you, Olivia. It's really good advice. And again, we see this power of like mentorship and community.
Mhm.
I want to use my fourth and final question just as space that you and I, as disabled people, so rarely get, and that is a chance to promote yourself, brag about any recent wins or upcoming wins, or if you're interested in building community where people can find you online, this is just a chance for you to cheer yourself on and share some wins. So let's hear it.
Yeah. I if you want to find me on social media, I am on LinkedIn. You can type in Olivia Fadul on LinkedIn and send me a friend request. And I'm always happy to answer questions. C- I I I think for me personally, I'm becoming tongue-tied. I think some wins for me is that I am branching out within disability mental health. I do have some upcoming training seminars that I have submitted proposals in national arenas. So look for me on LinkedIn, some trainings that I'm developing, some different frameworks for disability mental health. I'm really passionate, so I'm always open to collaboration. And if you need somebody to speak about disability mental health or how to navigate ableism, um, I am one of those people that I do those trainings.
Olivia, thank you again for the work you do. And more inclusive workforce and a more inclusive society, that's what progress looks like. Wherever you go, whatever you do, I'm rooting for you, and I can't wait to see what you do next. Thank you again.
Thank you.